Hello friends, welcome to VFX Pipeline channel. In this video we will see how an artist can become a programmer. So we will talk with a programmer who is working in industry for more than a decade and also worked as an artist, and now he's working as a programmer, and we are going to ask few questions from that programmer, then how they started their journey from as an artist to programmer, what are the first step of learning as a programmer, what if you are an artist, what should be your first step. We will ask with our guest, and also we will see how to prepare for your first job as a programmer. So if you are an artist, you want to apply for a TD position or a software developer position or a technical director position and a pipeline TD positions, what should be your preparation for a job interview, as well as what kind of show reels, technical show reels that you should have. We will ask with our guest what are the tools and softwares useful for programmer that you should know, and also we will ask his YouTube channel journey. So he's also having a YouTube channel where he's creating tutorials for programming that is very useful resource for you guys. So without further delay, let's just go and reveal the identity of our guest. Okay, Maria Panir Rajan. We are going to have a call with Maria Panir Rajan. He is a senior pipeline developer at Assemblage Entertainment, and this is the LinkedIn profile which we are seeing here. And he is having more than 12 years of experience and he started as a VFX supervisor, compositor, game developer. So he's having all kind of artistic experience in compositing, and now he's working as a software developer. So that means there is so many interesting knowledge which Maria Panir is having that we are going to discuss with him. Okay, now let's just see his YouTube channel. Maria Panir Rajan is also having a YouTube channel which is by his name. You can search by Maria Panir Rajan. He also created interesting videos recently, so all the programming videos are there. There are some old videos which is 8 years old he posted, and this one is very interesting. Let's see that.
A is for apple, apple, apple.
So I guess this is when Maria was doing the compositing stuff, green screen, chroma stuff, and he made a sample showreel. So in our coming call, we will ask about like how he attempted this. So yeah, this is a VFX reel he created almost 8 years back. And now let's just quickly see what is his recent video. So for example, let me go to the video, and this is like 1 week ago he created, and let's see.
Hello, hope you're doing great. This is Maria Panni Rajan, your friendly software engineer. And in this video, we're going to talk about variables in C++.
So interesting, right? So not even Python, you can also get interesting information about C++ also
So in a
from
previous-
Maria Panir Rajan. So now it's time to get Maria Panir Rajan in our channel. I'm going to start a Zoom call with him. I'm going to record this entire session and I will share with you guys, so you will get whole idea about. And also guys, if you haven't subscribed VFX Pipeline channel, please subscribe, because here we are going to add more videos like that will give you better understanding for how VFX Pipeline works. And also I will get some better all more experienced guys in our channel, and we'll have interviews with them, so that will give you a good career path for you guys. Okay, all right guys, so let's start our call with Maria Panir Rajan. All right, so friends, we have Maria Panir Rajan with us in this call, and without wasting further time, we'll move to Maria. And before we going further, let me introduce Maria Panir Rajan. He is a software developer working in Assemblage right now. More than 12 years of experience in visual effects. Started as an artist and now working as a senior programmer. And so much interesting stuff that we are going to learn from him, how he started his journey as an artist to programmer. And so over to you, Maria.
So I mean, like, first of all, Rajiv, thank you so much for like this platform, that you've created. Like, thank you for this opportunity, and I've been a big fan of Rajiv, for ever since I remember. Like, actually, like, so I initially was a compositor. So as Rajiv mentioned, so I started off as an artist. So and at the time, Digital Tutors was like one of the premium platforms where you go and learn like all the tips and tricks of becoming a compositor. And during the time like Rajiv had published a tutorial, like I don't know whether you remember, like that compositing a car,
Correct.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
using Maya and
Mhm.
Nuke, right? So
Mhm.
like I used to watch that, study that, rewatch it again, and try to replicate it like by myself. And that's how like I got really inspired by like to know that like because like most of the trainers back then like were from other countries, right? So to know that like somebody from India like is teaching in Digital Tutors, and so clearly, and it
Mhm.
actually made sense when we were starting out. And that was very inspiring, and to see that. And like that's how I actually learned a lot of things in compositing. And
Mhm.
then like and then I got to know that like Rajiv is also producing a lot of content on YouTube, like. So you've been really active for the last 7 years, right, producing really useful content for the VFX community, right? So actually there's this stigma in our industry, right? Especially like especially in many of these Indian animation VFX companies, where like people try to like hold on to their knowledge and not share it, right? So because of maybe politics or ego, whatever, we don't know the reason, but
Mhm.
people always try to hold on. But like to know that you've been sharing that knowledge for so long, and like encourage people to learn, and like so that was very inspiring in itself. And actually, like I remember back then, like whenever we have some like VFX related things that we want to search for, as soon as you search for, the first thing that comes up is like the VFX Pipeline channel, like run by Rajiv. And
Mhm.
many of those with regards to DJV player, and even today, as a matter of fact, right, like for many things, like the content that you're producing is really valuable. Actually, like recently I was just trying to install NVIDIA drivers in CentOS. Okay, so I
Mhm.
just like searched for it, and your video is what came
I
up.
guess that is
Like,
the most old video which I created in 2014, and
okay,
still it's like the solution is working. Okay, so
yes,
let's move to our agenda. First, let's
okay,
our viewers want to know, since you worked as an artist and now working as a
mm,
programmer.
yeah,
Even I worked as an artist and now working as a programmer. Like
yeah,
many of our viewers who are actually working in industry as a compositor, as a roto
yeah.
artist, or whatever artist they are, if they want to move their journey to
Hmm.
programming side, like what kind of tips that you can give and from where they can start. So and so
Yes,
so basically you can tell your story. You
yeah,
started as an artist, and why
yeah.
you think that okay, now I should move to programming.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a very good question, and like, and this is one of the questions that many artists even ask. Like, like even to me when I have conversation with artists in our floor, and like in the industry throughout. So as you said, right, I actually started off as an artist. So like so it's been over 12 plus years, and like in 2009 is when I got into the industry. So initially I started off as a game developer, as a matter of fact. So like I was doing my computer science engineering. So like so it was a 4 year course, and in the third year itself, right, a friend and myself, right, just my classmate, is a very good friend of mine, and together we, he was also interested in games and graphics and so on. So we thought, okay, let's just build something together. All right. So like so he was the guy who was like writing the programs and coding, and I was the guy who was like creating all the visual elements. So at that time, back then in 2009, like Flash was very popular, like in
Adobe
all
Flash.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, Adobe Flash, yeah. So it was really popular back then. And like and I've been, ever since I remember, even as a child, right, even from my fifth grade, I used to play with Flash. Like I used to use it as a glorified PowerPoint. So I used to always play with it. So and like in college, we thought, okay, let's just build something with it. And most of the websites, like at that time, every website used to have a Flash animation. Okay, so that was like the norm. So we thought we'll just build something, and like and there was many Flash gaming websites back then. Like a lot of kids used to go to these websites and play Flash games, like Congregate, Armor Games, Miniclip.com, games.com. So these were very popular at the time. So and they were, there's a huge demand for games because, like these websites used to constantly buy flash games. So we thought, okay, let's just, build a game and see where it goes. So he was the guy who was like writing the code, and I was like the, the designer, the artist. So so we explored, using 3ds Max or Maya and all these things, like Photoshop, primarily Photoshop, a lot of Photoshop actually. So did a lot of these, we created all the visual elements, and we made these games, and I used to also code, and we just just two people, indie game developers. So we kept on building these games, and we were doing that like for 2.5 years. As a matter of fact, we started off, in the third year of college, and we just got so hooked onto it because the first game took us around 6 months to build. But then, after 6 months, somebody actually bought our game. That was like, wow. Somebody actually pays money to buy our game. So that was like really, that was an eye-opening moment where we realized, okay, doing this we can actually make a living. This is something that's like really cool. So we started making a lot more games. And as a matter of fact, like at the time, I got so involved in computer graphics and this and this industry that as a matter of fact, both of us dropped out
So
of college.
when you came in VFX industry, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say we just see your video. A
Yeah.
is for Apple, and that is that is very interesting video.
Yeah.
I mean, when you created that, and what was the logic? I
Yeah.
mean, what was you thinking? Like you made as a showreel, a demo shot for you,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
what triggers you? What software that you use? What was your plan that time? Like you
Yeah.
you created that shot for your job or what?
Yeah, I mean, like again, a good question. So basically, so we was building these games for 2.5 years times. Okay, about 200. We made around like some 20 odd games, and all were commercially successful. We used to sell these to these gaming websites. But my real passion was in movies. Okay, so today the lines are drawing very thin between games and animation and VFX. But I really love that aspect of it. You can just sit and watch a movie play, right? That storytelling aspect really was appealing. That was my that's my real passion. Okay? Like that storytelling, that movies, animation. So I wanted to pursue that. So after 2.5 years of being involved in game development, primarily online flash games, so I wanted to study visual effects and animation in detail, because while doing game development, I used a lot of Photoshop. I'm not exactly
So you learn all this like all these VFX softwares by your own, or you did any course from any institute?
Yes. So basically, so for the 2.5 years when we were building games, it was all just internet. We were studying from the school of internet. So, okay, it's like YouTube and internet and so on. But so I just wanted to do a bit more structured course. After making these games for a couple of years. So I joined an animation visual effects institute in Chennai called Maya Academy, MAC. So I believe it was like around 2010 or something, like 2011 is when I joined there. So it was a 1.5 years course, and I understand you also did a course, right? Like Framebox is where you studied.
Yeah, I was also in Mac. I did PD
Oh, in Mac.
3D from Mac.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I guess
okay.
you did AD 3D, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because they
Yeah.
changed the course name to AD 3D and AD 3D plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you completed your full course?
Yes, so it was actually called VFX Plus, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so 83D was also there. Like the course that I opted for was the visual effects and compositing, specialization course. So basically, because I'm not, I love graphics, and I love animation, but I can't draw a straight line. Right? So even if you give me a ruler, I won't be able to draw a straight line. So all the art and the graphics that I created for the games, right? So they are online even today. Even though they were commercially successful, they are really good. But I didn't draw them. I just manipulated the images. So I was just doing photo manipulation, from the beginning. So Photoshop felt very natural to me, and I wanted to understand what is the next level of Photoshop, and that is compositing, right? So so I wanted to learn that, pursue that as a career. So that's why I took up this VFX Plus.
So
in
what
Mac.
was your first software, compositing software? Is it After Effects or Nuke?
Yes, After Effects. Yes, After Effects.
Okay.
and like a video copilot. If
Okay,
you do,
Andrew
yeah, like
Andrew
Andrew
Kramer.
Kramer. Yes,
Ah.
he was my guru.
Yeah,
So
all compositors guru is actually Andrew Kramer. Definitely, no
yes.
doubt. Even in my beginning days when I was doing After Effects,
Uh-huh.
Andrew Kramer, I get a lot of tips and tutorials from his video copilot stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so then I mean, when you get your first job as an artist in
Yeah.
industry.
Yes. So actually, like theoretically, if you think of it, right? Like I was already, like making money, like making games. Like so I was already, like employed in a way, because self-employed, I guess, like indie game developer. So I was like actually doing, like in 2009 itself, when I was making games, like we were selling them and we were making good money with it, right? So, but then, like I wanted to study this, so like that's where I, like did this course for 1.5 years in Mac, this visual effects course. And during that time also, I was doing a lot of these freelance work. Like for a lot of these clients, I used to go shoot videos and create all the visual elements, and like primarily working as a freelance VFX artist. So I was doing that for like 2.5 years. And at the end of the course, right, so I had this, like awesome opportunity to work with Prime Focus in Mumbai. So Prime Focus's animation division, right? So they had this opportunity. They were basically, at the time only, they were setting up an animation division there. So like I had this like opportunity to go there and work as a compositor. So I, like that's if like maybe that's the entry into the industry per se. Like so previously I was just independent, right? I was just doing it on my own, like. But after doing that course in Mac, I came to Mumbai, and that's where I, like I was working, like so we were working on a TV series called Legends of Chima for Cartoon Network. So that
Okay.
was, yeah, that was what we were doing first. So the first year was a compositor over there.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. So that means you learn from Mac, you get your course done, and you created your showreel. So
Yeah.
you submitted your showreels, right, for creative jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
So when the transition from artist to programmer started in your career, like what
Yeah.
is the first time that you decided, okay, now I should create tools, make
Yeah.
scripts, or make tools. So
Yeah.
what was the first tool that you write in pipeline?
Yes. Yes. I remember that. So basically, so I was a compositor there in Prime Focus Animation, and I was just like doing churning of the shots, and and since it was an episodic thing, right? Like every 2 weeks we had to finish, like an episode and deliver. So initially, like we had a bit more time, like for episode, we were taking about, for first episode and all, about 2 months time also was given, because that's where we were figuring out the pipeline and setting up things. But as the season, like as the more episodes started, we are starting churning it out at the end of the season and all, right? Like almost every 2 weeks we were churning out, we had to churn out an episode. So like at the time, what was happening was like we had to stretch our working hours, and even though people were working on shifts, everybody had to like sit together. And even like in the nights, we were just like sitting there in this office and like doing this. And at the time, what I saw was like many of these things, the reason it was taking so much time was people were just sitting there doing manually a lot of things that could be automated.
Correct,
And
correct.
and my software engineering instincts kicked, because I was doing that for quite some time, right? Like I was doing games, and I was developing software back then, and I also did computer science, engineering and all, right? So I had that in me, like that a natural instinct to think in terms of programming, way. So I saw that many things could be improved and automated. So first I started with the compositing team. So because like in my team, we were just staying all night, and we were pulling this one of these all nighters. Okay, so and at the time, we had all submitted the thing for review. So that the lead was like reviewing the shots. At the time, I thought, okay, let's just do something. Let's just make this useful. So about in the middle of the night, there was people were copying scripts. So basically for the hookups, right? Like so when you have working on a shot, especially in compositing, what you do is like to make sure that the color corrections and all the the way that the script has been set up in Nuke. We were working on Nuke. So to make sure it is set up right, the hookups are right. What the artists used to do, they used to open the previous shots Nuke script, copy that entire entire node graph, and paste it in the current script, and that's where they start working on. So that's like even to start working on it, that's the starting point. You copy and paste, and then only start
It's like
working.
a template that they want a starting template for their work.
Exactly. So the thing is like this was done all manually, so people had to go figure out and where the previous thing was. Like we had good pipeline in Prime Focus. Like to start with, we had really good tools and all. But like in spite of the tools that we had, these were things that on the floor like people are facing, right? Like, so that is something that when you're on the floor, you literally get to see things that could be changed, right? So I thought, okay, let's just write a small script that will automatically, when you open that script itself, will copy that template for you. It's just a simple thing. You just need to
Correct.
copy and paste. Yeah. But that made a lot of difference, like that people were really excited that this was something that was happening automatically, and they can just start working.
So which language you use for that? Is it Python, or you just using the Nuke script for that?
So Python. So Python is what I was using.
Okay. So this is the first time that you started Python, or before that also you already know about Python?
So I was a programmer, right? I said so in Flash, right? So there was this programming language called ActionScript 3. So in Flash itself, it's an inbuilt thing that it's similar to Java. So I was used to programming in object-oriented sense, and AC was ActionScript 3 was a proper object-oriented programming language with which you can build really intricate and complicated games. So I was used to that. I was I was a programmer, so I understood about that. But Python as a language, I didn't I didn't find a need to use before using Nuke. Before that, I was using JavaScript and all these other different C#, also some for game development, C# and all these things I use, right? So I use those languages, but Python is something that used inside of Nuke. So inside of Nuke, right, you have this Python script editor. So and the really cool thing Nuke does is, right, so if you in the script editor, there's this option where it will echo the Python commands. So I used to just echo that thing and perform an operation. Let's say, for example, I want to have a blur node, I want to to a given input plate, I want to connect a blur node and a write node. So what I will do is I just turn the echoing on, and then perform the operation manually on the DAG, on the node graph, and it'll just echo those commands, right? So I'll just copy those commands and put it into a script, and that's how I used to automate things for artists. Many things that they used to do repeatedly, right? I just ask them what they were doing. I'll just copy those echoes and put it into a script, and that's how it started. So Python, yes, in Nuke, that's where I started.
Interesting stuff from your end. Now our viewers want to know what should be the first step if as an artist, if someone as an artist, if they want to come in programming, then according to you, what you want to suggest to them?
First of all, I will ask them, why do they even want to come to programming? Because so they are two different things. So that's very important to understand. Because being a compositor is a different skill set, and being a software engineer is a different skill set. It's two different things. That's what I know. At least I got to understand. Because so I was a compositor, right? So I was doing compositing, and then to help me do compositing is why I started doing programming, right? I started to write all these small scripts and so on. But the more and more programming I started to do, right, I got to understand that I am naturally a programmer, that's what I am. I got to understand that while I was doing this, because more than the shots I created, the software that I created were of better quality, and it was making a difference for many people, so I got to understand that I'm a programmer by nature. It's just that I'm a computer graphics programmer. So that's what I got to understand. So artists, if they want to do programming, they should learn and understand the fundamentals of programming, and understand that this is a different discipline. It's not an extension of art, compositing or modeling, or all these different disciplines. They are different disciplines all by themselves,
right?
So for any artist who wants to this pipeline TD is something that's very glamorous for many people, right? So especially for artists, right? So they think that, okay, if I want to become senior, or if I want to get more salary or be promoted,
right,
they think that maybe I should become a pipeline TD. But do you really want to, is that something that you really want to?
Is something like, if you're working as a roto artist and a compositor, and after 5 years of experience in there, now you want a TD tag with that. So let's say Nuke TD and Houdini TD, whatever software TD you have. But the thing is, along with the working experience of the software, you must clear all the programming concept also, because
Exactly.
TD is actually not the person who is actually doing the troubleshooting and also
Yeah.
fixing the software itself. It's like
Yeah.
you are actually going beyond the software, creating
Yes.
tools for software.
Exactly. So actually, like, so that's the most important thing that, like, as an industry, like, we need to understand, because, um, programming and, software development, like, takes a lot of, like, skills in itself. You need to develop a lot of skills, and, you need to understand, like, the software engineering fundamentals and programming concepts to build something that is of quality, right?
Hmm.
Like, as I said, right, when I was a composer, just copying these echo commands and putting them into a script doesn't make me a, didn't make me a pipeline TD, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
even though I called myself that back then, but,
Hmm.
that was not, that's something that anybody could do.
Hmm.
So, like, being, say, for example, if you are a new artist, okay, and if you love compositing and if you love being an artist, do that, continue being an artist, love that, and, like, upskill yourself, keep watching, like, a lot of these training videos, and understand the latest things that you could do with compositing.
Right.
And this is something that I always share with, like, artists in, in industry in general. Don't be pigeonholed into a single software. This is actually something that, my mentor taught me.
Hmm.
Like, if you're like if you're doing compositing, understand compositing, not new compositing, right? Like, and if you
Hmm.
would wanted to be a 3D artist, don't be a Maya artist, be a 3D artist, like,
Understand the
understand.
concepts. Hmm.
Exactly. So tomorrow, if you have, instead of nuke, if some other compositing application comes up also, you'll be able to do it, right? You'll be able to start compositing using that application. That application is just like a car, right? Like, if you are, like, you should know to how to drive a car, not how to drive a Maruti 800, right?
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Just because, like, so if tomorrow somebody gives you a Baleno, you shouldn't say, okay, I wouldn't drive Baleno because I only drive Maruti 800. That doesn't make sense, right? So it's
Hmm.
important to know to drive the car. And so compositing is, a skill in itself, and
Hmm.
modeling is a skill in itself, and, like, FX. See, these are all the different disciplines that we have, and at the end of the day, we are making a movie together. But, like, especially when you're working in a big team, if you want to, work in a huge, like, environment with lots of artists, and, like, big productions,
Hmm.
you would need to be a specialist, right? Like, when you're working as a small indie group, and if you're making a short film, or, a small game or whatever, right? So at the time, yeah, it's fine, like, you can do whatever, everything to, you can write from, like, drawing the storyboard to, creating models, and, creating the pipeline, everything you can do. But when you want to do create world class, things, right, you need to be a specialist. And so decide for yourself, do you want to be, a software developer? So, because
Hmm.
pipeline TD is a software developer in, like, in a
Hmm.
sense. And or you want to be an artist, you want to be a world class, artist, creates, awesome shots, composites together, like, so that's something that, it's very important to decide
Even
upfront.
compositing these days is not just like two images that we are going to compose it. These days new
Correct.
techniques like 3D
Yes.
projections, and
Exactly.
even the texturing also itself is actually right now these days actually we are
Yep.
doing inside compositing. They are
Exactly.
ultimate camera tracking, real time compositing happens.
Yes.
It's not just
Yes.
limited to one or two things that actually we are doing. There are a lot of
Yeah.
scope. As an artistic side also there are many scopes. And these days
Exactly.
more and more AI and machine learning tools are also implemented in
Yes.
there. So
Yes.
utilizing as an artist is also one of the interesting thing.
Yes,
Right.
definitely, yes. And, like, it's like a painter, right? Like, in a sense, when you're an artist, like, it's like a painter being. So, the skill is what matters. Like, doesn't matter how many brushes you have, doesn't matter how many, like, canvases or whatever you have. If the artistry, if the skill is not there, these things are irrelevant. So,
Hmm.
like, so that's what. Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to, like, create amazing shots? If you
Okay,
have
so
that passion.
here I receive another question here is so
Uh-huh.
let's say if as a artist, if
Mm-hmm.
working as a 5 years of experience now
Yeah.
ready to work as programmer,
Okay.
he don't want to continue as a artist,
Okay.
he want to
Okay.
move forward, so what should be the first step of learning?
Yes. So, if you, so basically, like, after doing 5 years of, like, shots, you want to, like, move to another discipline, to another different department, which is like, programming. That's something that I did, right? So, and as a matter of fact, like, you have done that, right? Like, you've been an artist, and then, you move to
Hmm.
this programming department. So, like, to get started, right? Like, learn the fundamentals of computer science, because as a programmer, see, the thing is, right, the change in dynamics is this. So as an artist, you are responsible, in business terms, there is something called B to C, right? B to business to consumer. You're basically the guy who is creating content for the consumer. You are the guy who is actually, like, literally, just setting the color of the pixels and the image, and filing the image and giving it to the audience. Okay, so that's your responsibility. But then when you come to be a programmer, you're not you're a B to B, business to business. So the thing is, you're not directly creating the images for the audience, whereas you're creating the infrastructure, or the tools, and you're basically a facilitator. You're no
Workflow.
longer.
We are getting a workflow as a programmer.
Exactly, you're creating the entire, like, the workflow itself, and you give it to the artist. Because so now, your client, as a programmer, your client is no longer the audience, your client is the artist, right? So that's the perspective change, right? So now, and what do the clients require? You need to understand that. And because you were a client before, because you were an artist before, like,
Better
naturally
know.
know. Exactly, you better know, right? You have been on the floor, and you know the frustrations, and like, the requirements of the artist. So you have been in that seat, so you have a better perspective. But the thing is, in order to solve the artist problems, right, your previous skills, yes, it will be useful, but that will just be useful maybe 20%. 80%, the 20% is also just to give you context. Okay, because, like, the product that you're creating, the software that you're creating for the artist, it's not about using Nuke, or it's not about using Maya, it's not about creating a 3D model. It's about creating the applications, the software that can be used to create a the 3D model, or the composite shot, or whatever. So in order to create the applications, you would need to know the software engineering fundamentals. Like, you need to understand what is design patterns, what is software architecture, like, how do I write code that is scalable, how do I write code that basically is not repeated, it's not just copy and pasted, and so on. So maintainable, basically, how do I create code that is maintainable, and it's unit tested, and it's like A grade software on its own. So that's the main thing, as an artist, you need to understand before you start making this switch.
Okay, so there are few points that I want to add here is
Yeah.
as an artist, if you switch to a technical department or as a software developer,
Yeah.
the first thing is just creating a idea or giving a idea in software department is not something which make you a software developer, because
Yes.
most of the people who come from a floor as an artist and they
Yeah.
have the idea of how things works.
Yep.
So once you ask, like, as a lead, I took many interviews, and most of the interviews, when I go through that, they
Yeah.
apply for the position of a TD, technical
Mm-hmm.
director. And when I ask, okay, now what is the difference between a list and tuple? That is the only question which I ask, and they have
Yeah.
no idea about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the problem. If they
Yeah.
are saying that 10 years of experience,
Yes.
holding a designation of technical director, but
Yeah.
if they don't know what is the difference between a list and
Yeah.
tuple, then this is the problem. So fundamentals should be clear. What
Exactly.
you should know, what you are about to write. Giving
Yes.
suggestions, giving ideas, drawing things on paper on board is not make you a developer.
Exactly. That makes you a good consumer. You know what you want. You makes you a very good artist. But to be a programmer, to actually do it right, create something that is really quality tool. I always say this. Basically, you wouldn't want the engineer who created, like, the engineers who created Autodesk Maya, right? They are not good at modeling. That's something that we need to understand. They,
Right.
they created the software, okay, but the thing is, they are not good at the consumers are way better in creating the 3D models, and the effects and so on. As a matter of fact, like, the guy who created the nucleus system, right, that particle system, so I had the chance to meet him in SIGGRAPH a couple of years back, in SIGGRAPH Bangkok. And so he is a scientist. Okay, he's a engineer, he's a software engineer, he's a hardcore software engineer. but he wouldn't be able to, create a simulation which can tell a story, right? So that's what he was sharing, see, he's a mathematician, and he's an engineer, and he's a hardcore, scientist, so that's so when you're moving into this discipline, you need to imagine yourself like, like the tools that artists are, what are the tools that artists are using? They're using things like the nucleus system, and they're using, Maya and Nuke, and these are all software applications built by software engineers. So if you want to build tools, you need to be a software engineer. So that doesn't mean you need to go and have a, engineering degree. Even I don't have an engineering degree. I'm also a college dropout. It doesn't mean that. It's You need to be understand the engineering principles and the foundations, and you need to build a software application. So that's
Right.
the perspective that you need to have.
Right. So the first thing that viewers, what you can have is like understanding of a basics of programming.
Yes.
And even when we are saying basics of programming, that doesn't mean like for basics of Python and basic of C++ and basics of Java is different. All have common principles, which is like a all have variables, all have functions, all have loops. The concept are same everywhere. The syntax might be different. It's the same way compositing you can do in Nuke, compositing you can do in After Effects,
Yes.
even you can do compositing in Netron. And
Yes.
most of people, they don't even hear about Netron, but I'm just wondering because
Yeah.
it's a very powerful tool.
Yes.
And it can be a good alternative for Nuke.
Yeah, it's all open source, and you can customize
Exactly,
it.
exactly. But we'll have a separate talk on the Netron part where
Yes.
I have few ideas about that and for the
Okay.
development. Okay, so the next thing is so once you done with your basics, you understand like how things work. Then first thing that
Yep.
you can do is you can start learn technical documentation available
Yes.
with all the softwares. Whether you are a new guy or a Houdini guy, all softwares have a technical section there.
Yes.
Second thing what you should do is start learn how to understand like the technical document. What is the use of that? What is written
Yes.
there?
Yep.
Because there is some use of that piece of information for
Yep.
someone, right? So
Yes.
if you are able to understand why this, like if there are some references, there are some class references, there are
Yep.
some if all the information is available there, if you are able to read it, then you understand, then you can think like, okay, now I can go to the technical level and I can start
Yes.
putting my interviews and my resumes to the
Yep.
technical department. That will
Yes.
be a good start. But
Yep.
how you get this information is there are plenty of resources. You can go to YouTube. YouTube is a big ocean these days.
Yep.
Whatever thing you want to learn from, not just Python, even in Python, if you want to go to the very advanced level like a TensorFlow kind
Yeah.
of stuff, AI, machine learning stuff, everything you can learn. Okay,
Yes.
so there is no less resources available. I remember
Yep.
when I was started that time, it was like only few kbps internet, so video
Yeah.
tutorial is like a
Yeah.
no way.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So now these
Yeah.
days, like whatever you want to do, you can just simply start search and you will get.
Yes.
And not
Yep.
even one or two videos, like channels like Maria is also like teaching how to use programming, Python programming, and
Yeah.
and all the principles fundamental which he is teaching in his channel. That is, I think, it's a good enough. But not just watch all these videos. What we have
Yeah.
to do is watch all videos, think a project in your mind. I mean, it can be a
Yes.
tool, it
Yeah.
can be just a replicate of an existing tool,
Yeah.
that's completely fine. But don't
Fine.
look at the source code of that tool.
Yeah.
Create your own. Understand the principle from any channel, whatever YouTube channel you have.
Yeah.
Wherever you found information, maybe you can read books, whatever you feel. Then learn from there, create your own tool and make sure it start working. But once it start working, share with your friends and get their feedback. Once
Correct.
you receive feedback, then this is the time that you should think it, okay, now I am ready for an interview and I have
Yes.
something to show.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that is our next question. If let's say you understand the basics, you get the hold of all the Python commands, you watch tons of videos of how to give the Python interviews. These days, many videos are there, and that is pretty
Yes.
good actually. Small
Yeah,
small
that's
questions,
true.
but very impactful.
Yes.
And also, one thing I want to add here is the day one when you decided to move inside a technical department as a software engineer, I would highly recommend create your profile on a Stack Overflow.
Yes. Correct.
don't
Yeah.
browse or visit that website as an anonymous user. I highly recommend create your
Yes.
own profile.
Yep.
That is, there are many advantage that you are going to get. That I already
Yes.
made a complete video only on Stack Overflow, link you can find
Yep.
in the description. But the few highlights is, most of the time when you found some answers are useful, you can appreciate other developers by
Yes.
upvoting them.
Correct. Yep.
Also, if you have some queries, you can actually comment. If you
Yep.
did not log in, then you can't comment, right?
Yeah.
And the third point is, if you are working on something and you get the answer and your problem is
Yeah.
solved, few months later, if same problem happen, then you can just simply go to your profile and watch
Correct.
your history. So
Yes.
that
Correct.
is actually very helpful for you to actually
Yes.
go back to the previous one. So Stack Overflow is like a must website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the next thing is, let's say if you have profile, now you have everything ready. So now our
Okay.
artist who now ready to become a technical director in the studio,
Hmm.
now they want to apply for a job. So
Okay.
how they can prepare for that part?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, wonderful question. So basically, the thing is, right, like, um, today, as you already mentioned, right, like there are so many social platforms that are, like, very readily available, right? Like Stack Overflow, like being one of the top, like places where, technical people, like communicate with each other, right? And GitHub is another really good social platforms where, like software people, like push their code and, collaborate and, being part of the global open source community. So actually, like the thing is, right? So like people can just take inspiration like from people like you, basically, like where you're creating content, right? So like the reason, like see, like YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all these different social platforms are there, right? So show what you're capable of. That's the basic funda, right? Like, so like you can actually, if you're building a tool, not the tool that you're building for the company, but your pet projects, like things that you're learning or things that you're doing on your own. Those things you can actually literally create a walkthrough and like a video walkthrough and say this is what you've built, right? You can create, put it on YouTube, or you push the code on GitHub, and like and as a matter of fact, like today, everybody is very well connected, right? So you can actually ask a senior developer or a senior pipeline TD. You can even send your code, like you can actually literally copy that link in GitHub and send it to them, and ask for some feedback, right? Like see, depending on whether on their availability, like they would respond. But at least like you're getting your thing out there, right? Just like how as an artist you create your show reel, like, and you send it to senior people to get their feedback, and like you put it on YouTube, right? So that's how as a artist you're showcasing your creative skills by creating a video. As a software developer, you show your creative skills by creating applications. Like you build a product, and like and you can show a demo. As a matter of fact, even after you come into a company as a into a technical department, after you built a product, you are going to create a presentation for the artist. You will be like explaining what you have done and how it is useful for the artist. That's something that you definitely need to do, right? So do that beforehand itself. Like now, there's nothing stopping you from building a even a small application and explaining how that application will help an artist, and put it up on GitHub, and people will start using it, right? Like as a matter of fact, this website called Nukipedia, right? Like it's it's actually just a community based website which gained a lot of popularity, right? Like actually one of the maintainers of that website is also a good friend of mine, and so like he just started, he was a TD, he just like the gizmos and tools that he built, he just started posting, and people started posting it online. And now everybody in the industry like knows that he is a very good TD, because he is the guy who maintains Nukipedia, right? So be part of the community, start contributing, like
Correct.
start being open, and show what you're capable of. Like it could be crap also, it doesn't matter. At least you'll know that it's crap, and you can make yourself better, right? Just like how you created a show reel,
Right.
start developing code,
Right. That's
good
an
applications.
interesting point here. Is I want to add few points here from my end. It's like a, the example which I can give you here is, when I was as an artist, I had a lot of show reels. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on my YouTube channel as an artist, as a
Yeah.
VFX artist, what I created.
Yeah.
But when I first move in the technical department, in the software development department, I created a software at home.
Okay.
Okay, and the name of that software is Renderbox.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Did you see that Renderbox?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So it's on my YouTube channel. There are a lot of videos for that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's open source, so the source code
Mm-hmm.
is available. And I created a proper documentation,
Yeah.
and it's like a full-fledged software.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my first software which I built
Mm-hmm.
in Python, PyQt, and even in that first application, I added like all the advanced concept of threading, multi-threading,
Awesome.
every
Mm-hmm.
single thing, database, all included in that
Yep.
API.
Yeah.
So, but I want to demonstrate every single thing. A
Yes.
capability. It's not just like a application with a
Mm-hmm.
raw py file. I made a
Okay.
proper installer with
Oh, wow.
exe, and it's
Cool.
available on SourceForge, and so you
Mm-hmm.
can download the exe. If you Google it and go and search Renderbox, the first link you will
Uh-huh.
see is like my application link.
Awesome.
So
Mm-hmm.
more than I don't know, maybe more than 10,000 20,000 downloads
Wow.
around the world.
Wow.
People
That's
are
awesome.
using that. So that was my first application, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I want to advise everyone who are
Yep.
watching this video. Create a
Yes.
tool, create a
Yep.
software.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how big you want to create. I mean,
Yeah.
don't see Renderbox as a like, okay, you will also create a application like
Mm-hmm.
that, then only you will go. It's up to you. What
Yeah.
is like, if you can create some small one also.
Yeah.
You can get one more example from my software, which is I created a tool. It's a kind of
Mm-hmm.
a digital asset inside Houdini. That is the
Uh-huh.
Houdini Playblast tool,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
which I developed for Houdini, just for showing the demonstration, like how I can create. Even a
Mm-hmm.
small tool also you can show as a demo reel, but
Okay.
showing something is very important, because
Yeah.
if you know how to do everything but you can't show, it will
Yeah.
not help you to get the job. But
Yep.
if you know little bit, but you can demonstrate that, okay, this is what I want.
Yes.
As a lead, as a head, we are looking for people who are actually can show the content practically, instead of like
Exactly.
saying that I know everything but they don't have
Mm.
anything in their hand. Making
Yes.
a GitHub profile is also very important, which Maria
Yes.
just pointed here, is because the day when you decide I want to become a programmer, Stack Overflow and GitHub, both
Yep.
profiles should be ready from day
Yes.
one. And if you don't
Yes.
know, it's very easy. It's far easy than your Facebook profile creation.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to our second last question for this talk. Is now as a programmer, VFX artist, they usually work as a as a in the softwares like Nuke and Maya and
Yeah.
Houdini. Their
Yeah.
software itself have like a scripting section, a script
Yes.
editor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But as a programmer, to work
Yeah.
more fluently and smartly,
Yeah.
what tools they should use
Mm.
in their workflow as a programmer?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, a superb question. So basically, the thing is, right, like when you're starting off, yeah, like you would be, like even I, as a matter of fact, I even shared, right, like I used to just copy the echoes, the new script echoes, and put them together, and that was the software that I created. So, but the thing is, even in Maya, there's a very good, like a Python editor that is there, which you can, directly write scripts there. But like when you're writing code directly in the DCC, right? Sometimes if the DCC crashes or freezes or whatnot, right? Your code is going to get lost forever. So like, and also it's a very limited way of programming. So as a like when you're coming to a technical department, you are a software engineer, so you need to create tools as a software engineer, right? So and like there are very good tools available today, like for software engineers to develop amazing like software. So some, I mean, like very good things that like I personally use are like I use Git a lot. Okay, so there's this thing called it's a version controlling system, like which enables you to create multiple versions and like of your code. So if you're writing a single piece of code, and if you want a different variation of that tool, okay, you already have something working. Okay, it's just that you want to try something, try a different feature or a different variation of it. So like what we generally do, we just make a copy of that entire Python file or entire project and put it into another folder and then modify it, and like have the two different code bases. But that's a very like say if you want add a new feature. And when you're developing this new feature, you know think of like improving a previous component. Then what you would have to do, you would have to copy that previous component back into that original code base, and it's a very messy way to work if you're doing all these things manually. But then like you have this tool called Git, which is actually like coming from the guy who actually created Linux, right? Like the Linus
Linus.
Torno, yeah, Linus. So he actually like he's one of the, he's actually the founder of he made this Git thing, right? So this is also completely open source, and it's a very powerful tool. As a matter of fact, GitHub is based on like Git. So because of Git only, GitHub itself exists, and everybody like is using this Git version control system to push and pull from GitHub. So Git is a very good tool that as a programmer, if you master it and you understand it and use it right, it's a very good tool for you to work personally. Also you're versioning up and you're creating different branches, and it's also a very good tool to collaborate as well. So if you you can push to the GitHub, and somebody else can also work on it. Maybe two junior guys, maybe two artists who want to take up programming, right, can work together, like start building tools together, right? And if you do that, that will be a very big plus on your portfolio, because you already know to work together as a software engineer. Because like when you're coming into a company, into a technical department, you're not going to be an individual contributor, right? You're going to be part of the team. You're just going to be working on individual modules, and everybody's modules are going to come together to build this application. So so using, understanding and mastering the Git tool will be a very good like a tool in your toolbox. So that's something that I use on an everyday basis. And for when it comes to IDE, so these days that just keeps changing based on the trend, right? So these days VS Code is a favorite, like that's something that I'm using quite a lot, and many people in the industry seems to be using it, use VS Code. And if you're developing for Windows, the Visual Studio like IDE that is there, right? So that's like the go-to editor. And previously Sublime also was very popular, like Sublime is another popular IDE. So PyCharm is there, and all these different and for C Lion is there. So these are all different IDs that are there. Just pick something that you're comfortable with. Some people like when they go a bit advanced, they start using Vim and all, like there's just a terminal ID and terminal editor that is there. So it's just preference basically, like but VS Code is something that's very popular these days, and that's something that I use. So as far as the IDE account, but like irrespective of what IDE you use, Git is something that will be very valuable. These two things will be useful as a software engineer.
Correct. So as a like a as a programmer, if you start working, make sure you have proper notepad softwares with you. I mean, not for programming, because most of the time we want to read the code. And
correct.
if you're just dependent on the basic software editor, for example, if you're working on Windows, and your Windows notepad will not able to show you the code in a very highlighted mode.
Correct.
There are some free editors available like Sublime, Notepad++, and all other softwares, which is just an editor. I mean, I'm not saying these are the IDEs where you can actually start writing code. So make sure you have these notepads, fancy notepads. That will enhance your visibility basically. Like you can read code faster, you can see commented code in a particular section. If there is some error, it will throw out a line, red line, something. That is one thing. Second thing is you should have IDE, and IDE is important in I would say in two ways. First thing is it will automate a lot of your work, which every project you have to do. For example, if you're working on a Python project, once you start a new project, it will create a new virtual environment for you and set up all the settings based on your project. And if you want any you want to install any packages for you, you can directly install from your IDE, so you don't need to go outside. Visually you can see a lot of things. You can you can zoom in, zoom out for according to how close you are from your screen, so that give you that freedom. And the syntax highlighting, the code highlighting, and also giving you, if somewhere you put a comma which is not required, it will start telling you that dude, you did something wrong here. So there is someone who can actually help you from day one, like okay, if you're following something or not properly, not just giving you like a alerts for your errors, is also correcting you if you are not following the standard industry standard programming, for example, like a pip 8 in Python. So if you are using capital letters for your variables, it will you can create. I mean, it will
Yeah.
not stop you to create that, but it
Yeah.
will like throw you a yellow line below that this is not a pip 8 standard, so you can
Yeah.
use all lower cases. It
Correct.
will help you to make a like a standard code, so you can write a beautiful code.
Yes.
And the third thing, which is very important and very useful, I mean, that is my life savior, is autocomplete thing.
Yes.
So whenever I want to know, like, okay, I have this class and I want to see
Yeah.
what are the methods available here. So
Yeah.
after pointing dot, it will
Yes.
give you a list of things that what I can do with that, instead of like every time go and open the documentation. That is very important. So
Yes.
if you are watching until here this video, so I guess you are already understanding what we are saying, and
Yeah.
the people who are not understanding what we are talking right now here, they already left this video in the starting 5 to 10 minutes. So here I guess all the guys who are watching, they are definitely dedicated guy who really want to push themselves into the and the technical line of VFX industry. There's nothing easy here. Things are not like it looks like from the other side is like things are grass is green in on other side.
Yeah.
But work is work.
Yes.
Challenges, full of challenges. It's not like always Stack Overflow is ready with our answers.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to dig.
Yep.
Sometimes we need to find the solution from our own head. We need to
Yes.
dig like, okay, this is new situation. And
Yep.
when you are in a studio, you can not just always go and copy paste your code to internet and just look for the solutions, because
Yeah.
you are dependent on your in-house library.
Correct.
Who knows the problem is coming from your own core library.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you are
Yes.
writing a code and you are writing a central core library somewhere, and
Yeah.
that core library is also dependent on your third core library, which is
Yes.
in the studio. So
Yep.
your studio core, so then in your final code, what you are typing is from my studio library dot core dot
Yes.
configs import this, and the problem
Yes.
is coming in that config. So internet is actually no use, right?
Yes. Yes.
So in that place, your skills of debugging things is very
Correct.
important. And again,
Yes.
if you're using a PyCharm or any other ID, PyCharm is one of the ID which I use mostly.
Okay.
So that is, you can easily trace back where's the problem come. I mean,
Yes.
there is a features like you can just control and click on those
Mm-hmm.
classes, and you can directly go to the file.
Yeah. Correct.
I mean, there are tons of videos available even on my channel. There are videos
Yeah.
which I make clearly tell what is the ID. So
Yes.
if you know all these tools, that is useful for you, and make
Yeah.
your like it saves a lot of time from you,
Yes.
and you can focus
Yes.
more specifically on the problem that you are trying to solve, instead of like,
Correct.
okay, again things install, open CMD, then terminal,
Yes.
then all these things.
Yes.
Even if you need terminal, it's in your ID. If you
Yes.
need database connection, it's in your ID.
Yep.
If you need
Yep.
any third party integration, if you want to write a documentation for MD files, it's in your ID. So
Yeah.
that's the reason it's created for programmers, and it's
Yes.
not just not using because I don't want to use this because I don't like. It's not about your like. It's about your
Yeah.
need. This
Yes.
is you have to use.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it'll definitely be a lifesaver. Yeah.
Okay, so we are almost in the end of our video section. Here, before we leave this call, I and me and all the viewers of VFX Pipeline wants to know about your channel journey, your YouTube channel journey. Why, when you started, and what is your upcoming plans for your YouTube channel?
Sure, definitely. And I mean, thanks once again for this platform and inviting me over to VFX Pipeline. Like the audience that you're building with VFX Pipeline, the community that you're building with VFX Pipeline, right? That's extraordinary. I can see the comment section, and a lot of people from the industry keep asking questions, and there's discussions also happening, in the comment section. So the community that you're building with the VFX Pipeline is fantastic. So kudos to that. So basically, what I'm doing with YouTube, like social media in general, is basically, the way when I look back, the way I started is in 2009, at the time, like when I was doing this game development, right? So that's when I started this YouTube channel, like some 10 years back. And I used to, make these that old. I mean, like I used to make songs and all. Okay, like basically some silly songs and all those things, and I used to make. And what I used to do is like in the background, I just used to put a green screen or something like that to change the background into some like some interesting things. So that's where like I started getting more interested in visual effects and all those things, and I started to play with compositing and all those things. So that's where it all started. And there are all these even the A for Apple video and all you mentioned, right? Like so during the time I used to make a lot of these visual effects videos. And one video I'm particularly really like really proud of is a video that I spent around 6 months to make. It's called 100 VFX in 10 minutes. So it's basically like a tribute to Andrew Kramer. So the guy who actually like I was like a big fan of Andrew Kramer, the video co-pilot guy. So I just made all the videos that he taught into a single video. Like I just literally shot all the VFX videos and all those things, and I made them. So that was something that was very like I'm really happy that I made that, because it gave me understanding of the computer graphics, and like how do you get these things done in general. But basically what started out as a like a creative outlet, basically I was just like trying out different things, and whatever I was learning I was putting them out. So that was primarily how it all started back then in 10 years. And then after that, for a couple of years it was just dormant. Now recently what I'm doing basically is like since I've been doing software engineering for quite some time, like over 12 years now, computer graphics software engineering. So I'm trying to especially for pipeline developers, and especially for artists who want to get into programming, I'm trying to teach the fundamentals of computer science. It's not just about Python, it's not about just C++, or it's about why are we doing this, what is happening under the hood, right? Like the videos that I'm like, I just recently completed a training series on Python, where it's not just about Python, but like the internals of Python, like what is actually happening when you are creating a variable, what is that going on, what is like what does it mean when you're creating a class, so those kind of things. So even the same with C++. Now in C++ you can go even a bit deeper, right? So like the C++ training was also like something similar to that. I mean, like, I'm just trying to instill the fundamentals of programming. It will be useful for like any like anybody who wants to pursue computer science, but especially for like people in our industry in computer graphics, who are interested in coming into the pipeline and R&D side of things. Because if you don't understand the fundamentals, as we were discussing in this like session, everything that you build will be just fluff, because it won't like stand the test of time. To build something that's scalable, that's solid, that could be actually make a difference in artists, right? Because as a software engineer, as a pipeline guy, right, your client is the artist. Only if the artists are lives are made better, you are a success. So like to do that, this fundamentals are important. So that's what I'm basically doing with the YouTube channel, even LinkedIn, and all the social media platforms. You can find me in my name, basically, Maria Panni Rajan. Maybe I will put it in the description section. So yeah, so like I'm in all the platforms, like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube is where I primarily share the videos that I make. So yeah, so if you find that useful, definitely check it out.
All right, so great, so much informative information that you shared with our VFX pipeline community. And guys, this is the end of this video session. With it was a very very interesting talk with our friendly software engineer, Mr.
Yeah.
Maria Panirarajan. I like the tag which is on every software. Every tutorial video start with that. That's really good. Okay, and we
Thank
are
you.
looking forward for interesting video tutorials from your end in your channel.
Sure.
Guys, if you want to grow our community, please go and watch the videos on Maria's channel, and also subscribe his channel to appreciate him for his upcoming videos. And these kind of things actually will give us kind of a mentally appreciation, like, okay, people are liking, people are watching our stuff, so let's create something interesting for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we are looking forward from you guys. And thank you very much everyone for joining this session. Thank you, Maria. We're looking forward for some more interesting session with you. And
Definitely.
take care.
Thank you. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Bye.
Bye bye.